Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Vibing with Sleazy, the podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening, tuning in, and downloading. This season's been great so far. This is sixth season, and this is episode 20. I've been really enjoying this run. I want to just, take time to thank all my guests, thank everybody that's been downloading, all the support. Newer countries have been downloading, so definitely seeing the love, and I really appreciate it. I do 21 episodes per season, so this is episode 20. I got one more coming, which will be the finale, and then I'll do season 7 down the road after a little bit of a break this summer. So I just want to thank everybody that's been on the ride since day one. This podcast has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of experiences. I've made some money. I've met some people, built a network. So, I just really want to thank everybody that's been supporting. I also want to thank everybody for their patience this season. Usually I pump the episodes out so quick, but working at the zoo and a lot of stuff going on in life, this season's kind of dragged out longer than I thought it would, but it's been great. It's been successful. So thank you for your patience and being on the ride. So this episode is episode 20. This is a solo episode. My finale, I have lined up a guest, and we're supposed to be doing it tonight. So I'm hoping that'll be a dope finale. I'm not going to say the guest name yet because I want to, all work out because how schedules can happen. But this episode is going to be about WrestleMania. So it is WrestleMania 41 this weekend. So 41 WrestleManias. Wow, it's crazy. But they're coming from Las Vegas. It's going to be a 2-day event. It's going to be really exciting, really big. WWE has really evolved in the past year. They, landed on Netflix. They've, still on Peacock. They have brought in some superstars from AEW. They just really have been top in the game. If you've listened to my episodes in the past or you're a wrestling fan and we've discussed it together, I have actually basically, kind of gave up on WWE for a while. Just didn't like the product, thought it was boring, thought there was really no direction. I think that was because Vince still had a hand in the creative. But now with Triple H and just kind of the development, the superstars and the storylines, WWE's become watchable again. It's become entertaining. And I think this is kind of, it's at a part of its story, where it's kind of on top of its game. It's really killing it. So I think this is going to be exciting WrestleMania. I'm excited to watch it. Anytime it's a 2-day event, it's always fun, because you got something to look forward to on, each day. And yeah, having 2 days of that, it's just, there's nothing that gets better than that. So, also in Vegas, why WWE's got it there, everybody that's in other indie wrestling groups and other wrestling groups are all booking, shows all over Vegas in this week, and there's cons, and, Vegas is just wrestling central right now. And I think, that's why WrestleMania just keeps getting bigger and bigger because of the following and everything that can happen. And I think too, something that is super important to think about for this episode. And like I said, this is the WrestleMania 41 episode where I'm going to go over the matches and make my picks. But I just believe that there's just going to be history made. John Cena has potential to become the 17th world champion, in his career, and getting the 17th belt. And that's going to beat Ric Flair, and Ric Flair's always been famous for being 16 time, and no one has passed that. And it's out of pretty much respect for Flair, but I believe Flair would let it go. Flair knows what he's done, but you got Randy Orton, John Cena, Flair, all in that category. And I think they're all wanting to become world champion, but I think Orton's kind of fallen out of that picture. but Cena can still do it, and I think Cena deserves it, even though he's done this crazy heel change. But I'm going to get into that here in a minute. But I think it's a case where uh, history could be made where Cena does win the title. And if that happens, I think the focus on wrestling is going to get big again because with Cena's final year, I think it's going to bring in more eyes. I think ESPN is going to cover it. You're going to see coverage all over social media if Cena brings home the 17th title. And I hope he does. He deserves it. I think Cena, has really delivered. And even though he's left and come and go, he's never disrespected the sport. And, he brings his A game and he brings back that character every time. And his heel work now here as of late has been fabulous. So, but I'll get into that. We're going to break down the matches and I'm going to break it down kind of less important to more important matches, but all of them are going to be exciting. All of them are going to be amazing. But I'll build up to the bigger matches, and I'm kind of going off WWE.com's website from the standpoint of how they have it lined up and how I think the 2 day part will set up for all these matches. But so WrestleMania 41, let's start. So it's going to be April 19th and April 20th, and you can stream it on Peacock and Netflix everywhere, all over. So Peacock United States and Netflix all over the world. So the first match I want to cover, it's going to be for the women's tag team title match, the WWE women's tag team title match. And it's going to be Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Bayley and Lila Raikkonen. And so the thing about it is, I think this match it'll be good, but I see Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez getting a dominant finish. Liv Morgan's push has been huge. She's had an amazing year. The publicity, the appearances she's done, the title matches, the Judgment Day storyline, the story with Big Dom, like Dominic Mysterio. It's it's just crazy. It's crazy her come up. She at one time was just kind of in a little female faction, and Enzo Amore found her at a Hooters, and she just keeps blossoming and getting more talented. And you see her house where she personally lives, and she's got a ring, and she trains there too. So it's just like she's taking it really serious, and she's become an awesome heel. And but at the same time, even though she's a heel, there's a lot of love for her too as well. So I see her and Raquel Rodriguez getting a dominant win. It seems like with her and Raquel, they do very well. They're on their third title run together. And the thing about that is it's like they really destroy. I mean, they're really dominant. And it's but I think Valkyra, she wants to become a double champion with Bayley, but it just seems like the Judgment Day just has too much power. So I'm going with Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez. I think it's going to be a dominant win. I think they're going to beat them down pretty quickly, and I think it's going to kind of at that point kind of define what's going to happen between Bayley and Lyra because will it go on to be a longer run together? I don't know, but Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, I don't see that separation happening anytime soon, and they just work so well together. The only thing that I could see that could cause chaos, which we've seen happen throughout the Judgment Day, even with the male superstars, is maybe they turn on each other because they bump into each other, or a reverse goes the wrong way. You just never know. So, but Liv and Raquel for the win in that match. Um, the next match I want to talk about is going to be the World Tag Team Champions match. So that's going to be the War Raiders versus the New Day. So the New Day, they're heels now. They've kind of gone the route that Cena's gone, and they have actually done very well in their heel run. You can tell as of late with WWE and AEW, they're doing a lot of stuff where fan encounters or they're getting filmed behind the scenes. Everybody wants to see the behind the scenes of anything anymore, entertainment wise. So when it comes to WWE, all those backstage segments, that's what was molded into us wrestling fans of seeing the exclusive and what's happening backstage. And I think with the New Day, they've done really well with like social media and getting flack from the fans and kind of feeding into it. And I also want to compliment the War Raiders. They have been super dominant. They are a tag team that just brings force, and they have worked their ass off to get to the main event show when it comes to tag team wrestling. And I just believe that they really deserve to have these titles. I mean, they have been a real dominant tag team. And they're super fun to watch, very, very competitive. And you can just tell that, they bring a force each time. They've clashed in the past before in the Viking rules matches, and Eric and Ivar, they got disqualified in controversial fashion, but they retained their world tag team titles on the April 7th of Raw, which was really recent. And I think too, it's New Day is looking to become champions for the first time, with Big E out of the picture. Big E's out of the picture, and now they're the heel New Day, and it's like, was Big E the X Factor? Or are they actually able to do it together? But I really think if the New Day wins the titles, I can see the heel push continuing. It's kind of hard to go back on what they were doing back to the good guys, but they still got fans. It's still fun to watch them. But I also think the War Raiders deserve to retain because I believe that they have had such a great year. WrestleMania is kind of the icing on the cake, the cherry on top for these wrestlers. So you want them to have the continued success off a big year. So I think the War Raiders deserve a win at WrestleMania. A lot of title changes happen the following Monday night on Raw because Raw always going to happen on Monday and SmackDown's always going to happen on Friday, even right after WrestleMania. And title changes can happen immediately on Monday night that, you know, a wrestler just had the biggest match and win of their life the night before. So, yeah, I see the War Raiders winning. Do they lose the title on Raw the following Monday? Possibly. But, I could see them securing the win. And I definitely see if they secure the win that the New Day are just going to let that slide. The next match I want to talk about is Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. So, um, I think with this match, they were kind of, you know, knew they could use Drew McIntyre in any realm. I mean, he's a superstar. He's fun to watch, dominant wrestler, but I don't really think he had a place in this WrestleMania with just storylines. And I think the same thing with Damian Priest, and both of them are not in the title picture. And, you know, would I like to have saw Drew McIntyre thrown in the CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins match and make a fatal four way? Hell yeah, that would have been badass. But I think this will be exciting too. I think a Sin City street fight. I think it's going to have some Vegas stuff to it. Both wrestlers, they can play kind of both parts. And I think too, they've been kind of, rivals and talk shit to each other this year as well. Drew McIntyre seems to have a problem with everyone, especially anyone that's in the title picture or is a title contender. And I just believe with this match that a street fight, it's kind of meant for WrestleMania too. You like to see these matches that are, um, you know, controversial or unconventional, instead of just a regular one on one, there's a street fight. And with it being in Vegas and what WWE's done in the past, I can see some theme, things to it, some theme antics. But I just think that overall, too, you know, Priest, he smashed the Scottish psychopath, through a windshield. And, Nick Aldis, I think he determined this street fight needs to happen, and there's just been a lot of controversy between both these guys. I see Damian Priest getting the win. It seems like WWE, for some reason, even though Drew McIntyre is a superstar and former world champion, he's fought over the world. I think that they kind of are enjoying on a run of him losing and kind of the reactions from the fans and what is happening. And I think it's a case where I think they are kind of feeding off that energy. I would like to see Drew get a win. I'm not the biggest Damian Priest fan when it comes to wrestling. I kind of find him as a boring wrestler. I think he's a great storyline, a great talker, great dude. But it's at the end of the day, I just can't. I can't really get into his matches. But I think both of these guys being heavy hitters and being big heavyweights, they're going to beat the shit out of each other. It's going to be fun to watch. So, but I think that you know Damian Priest, unfortunately, he's going to get the win because I think WWE's feeding off this Drew McIntyre losing thing because the way he reacts, it's psychopath. It's crazy, and he's just always mad. So, but it'll be fun to watch that match. The next match I want to talk about is Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Very, very shocking elimination chamber. Jade Cargill came out, beat the living shit out of Naomi. I mean, literally beat the dog shit out of her. And, Jade Cargill, who got huge in AEW, who had a huge following, her body is phenomenal. She's super in shape, super training, fun to watch as a wrestler, but there was a lot of development still needed. She was off air because there was a lot of they practice kind of it's not that AEW has legends in it, but I just don't think people were developing her perfectly as a wrestler, and WWE's really helped. And I think that the storyline with her being a part of the group with Naomi and Bianca Belair, she also's had injuries. I know that she's had some personal stuff, but I like that Jade's back. Jade's a superstar. She has a bright future. And I think that the work that was between her, Bianca, and Naomi, it's been great. But man, did she just beat the shit out of her elimination chamber. But I think this rivalry it needed to be taken to this place, and Cargill was taken out of action in a mysterious parking lot attack, and the assailant was never known until the Storm entered the elimination chamber members before the high stakes match, and she launched an assault on Naomi to take her out of contention. And so Naomi returned to SmackDown and admitted that she had ambushed Cargill, resulting in several back and forths in the weeks that followed. So if you think about it, these two girls, they've been beating the shit out of each other in general. Jade was taken out. Naomi admits it. Then Naomi gets beat, and Jade knew. And so I think this match is going to be intense. I think there's going to be they're going to beat the shit out of each other, and I'm going to like watching it. So I think it's going to reach dangerous levels. I think Nick Aldis has really, really dealt with the situations of some dangerous scenarios between his wrestlers. A lot of stuff's gotten personal. It's happened on Raw as well, as we know. But on SmackDown here, I just think that this is one that had to be settled. There was a lot of jealousy, and Bianca Belair, I think she's disappointed in both women, and I think she feels out of the loop, but she knows that these two need to beat the shit out of each other and settle their differences. So, and I think Bianca Belair, she knows as well that she's got other stuff to focus on. The next match is very, very interesting. So, it is Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. And if you know, and you've been watching, El Grande Americano is Chad Gable as a luchador. So Chad Gable's always respected wrestling, the luchador sport. He's a very serious wrestler. I've watched interviews with him off camera, out of character, and he's a hell of a guy when it comes to his training, the seriousness he takes, and the storylines, and where he wants to be as a wrestler. However, I think with this match, I think he's deserved because he had a really good run as a heel. And this is kind of going back to the storyline, even though fuck Hulk Hogan, but when Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon and had that storyline on SmackDown where Hulk Hogan was it was like he was like Mr. America, and he wore this mask, a luchador mask, and then Vince was acting like he's somebody different, but we all as fans knew it was Hulk Hogan. So I think this kind of ties into it, but I also think that Chad Gable's also showing respect and also showing that he can wrestle as a luchador, and I think it's something he's always wanted to do, but he has tied himself to kind of still his patriotic American vibe thing. So, they're going to go one on one. And I think on Monday Night Raw, El Grande Americano, he impressed with his lucha skills. And Rey Mysterio, his attitude, uh, you know, towards him was a little bit indifferent, and so was Chad's. And then, El Grande, he disrespected Mysterio's partner, Dragon Lee, by unmasking him during the match, which you don't do that in Luchador. That's just a key thing you don't do. And then, tired of the disrespect, Mysterio challenged him, and he's over it, and he wants to shut him up. And I think Rey Mysterio gets the win. And I think Chad Gable comes back, and this run kind of stops. If they want to continue it, maybe, and see him go against Penta or other guys in bigger pay-per-views and stuff. But I think that this character kind of dies out, and it was a good run for the Luchador run. But I think Mysterio gets the win. Mysterio hasn't came on top as of late, and I think it's a big win for him at WrestleMania. And man, shout out to Mysterio, doing things, keeping the body right. Shout out to him. Um, Next match I want to cover is the United States Championship match. It's going to be LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. So Jacob Fatu is basically been undefeated. He has not lost at all. He has been super successful, and he's a hell of a wrestler. And LA Knight has been greatest United States champion. He lost it to Shinsei, then he won it back. He's stayed in the mix. He's great on the mic, and he beat Shinsei on March 7th, and that was on SmackDown. And basically, he wanted somebody to step up and challenge him, and basically Fatu versus Strowman determined Knight's opponent because they did a last man standing match for the number one contender. And I think this match is going to be brutal, but I think LA Knight is going to give him his L. And I think this is going to be the biggest test for Fatu. And I think it's going to be a big test for LA Knight. But I think LA Knight's going to give him his L, and he's going to retain the title. I don't see him losing a title, again on a big stage, because it's like I think he's really doing some of his best work, and I think Fatu is meant for other things. But I also see Fatu being more of an enforcer and not really in that star spectrum, and just being a dominant wrestler in big matches. But this one could really go either way. But I'm going LA Knight. The next match I want to talk about that's going to be super intense. It's going to be the Intercontinental Championship. It's going to be Braun Breaker versus Penta versus Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio. So you got guys who have worked together, been on teams together, clearly, but there's been shit going all over the place. And I think Braun Breaker, he's been getting tired of not, being in the mix and having, you know, the title, and but he's won it now. He's the champion now. But I think he was just so tired of that, and he's caused rivalries with so many people, and he's had some intense matches. And I think these are guys that they want this title from him, but he's going to take down. And I think the biggest thing with this is that, Breaker, he has single win victories against all three of these guys, but he has to defend this against, all three of these guys at one time. And Balor and Mysterio, they've been butting heads as of recent weeks. They've been in the Judgment Day together. And, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder if there's going to be an assist, but I think at the end of the day, they both know only one's going to walk out with the title. Balor is a two-time Intercontinental Champion, where Mysterio and Penta will be looking for their first title reigns if they can get the victory, over Braun. But in my opinion, Braun wins the title again. Braun is a force. Braun's going to be a world heavyweight champion one time. There's a world title champion because there's no way that these three guys can take him down. He's a force. He's a star, and I think he keeps his title. I don't see Balor and Mysterio working well together. I think they're going to turn on each other, and I think Penta is a hell of a wrestler, but I can see too, just something happening. But if Braun was to drop the title or lose it at WrestleMania, I would say Penta is the one that's going to win it. But I'm going Braun Breaker for this match. The next match is AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. This has been going on here for weeks. Logan Paul is definitely a huge heel when it comes to wrestling. He does very, very well with it. AJ Styles was on injury there for a while. And, AJ Styles hasn't taken kindly to Logan Paul. They've had a lot of tense interactions since he's been back. And Paul loves being part of viral moments, but he was on the wrong side of a huge one when Styles got the last laugh alongside comedian Andrew Schultz. And after weeks of mockery and sneak attacks, the bitterness between Styles and Paul will culminate in a huge match. And I think both these guys are going to beat the shit out of each other. And I think AJ is going to push Logan to the limit. Logan has really stepped it up as a wrestler. For him to be in a TV, YouTuber, podcaster guy, he has really kept his body in shape. He's been high flying and he's had some great matches. And he's had some great things with AJ Styles already. But AJ Styles is a superstar. I think AJ Styles, being back from injury, he's really going to show, you know, Logan what's up. And I think he's going to shut Logan up. I think that Logan has been, you know, he's there to piss people off and push the limit. And I think he's going to continue doing that. But I think it's a case where they are, they're going to have a hell of a match and it's going to be a battle. But I see AJ Styles definitely, definitely coming on top for this match. The next match that has gotten personal. So this is actually a very, very personal match. This is a match that these people are going to legitimately beat the shit out of each other. I'm so excited to watch this. It is the WWE Women's Championship match: Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. Ric Flair's daughter versus Tiffany Stratton, the biggest female star right now going. And they had a promo where they were talking shit to each other, and it got off script and it got savage. And um, I think Tiffany won, and Tiffany has the fan following, but you could tell from both sides they were trying to deliver low blows. But on a camera before wrestling went on the other night, Tiffany attacked Charlotte and beat the shit out of each other in a parking lot. Uh, well, actually, it wasn't. I take that back. They didn't beat the shit out of each other. Tiffany beat the shit out of Charlotte Flair, is what I mean. And Tiffany grabbed Charlotte Flair and just beat the shit out of her, threw her into a truck. It was awesome to watch. I was hanging out with this girl. I showed her the video, and she was like, "Holy shit!" So at the end of the day, you know, Tiffany Stratton, she's dominant. Fans love her, and I think she is a force. And I don't think she's going to take Charlotte Flair's bullshit. I think Charlotte Flair thinks that she's like God's gift to wrestling when it comes to female wrestling. And yes, she's great. Yes, she had some good runs, but Tiffany Stratton's on top. And it's Tiffy time, baby. And I'm going to say it. It's Tiffy time. So at the end of the day, Tiffany Stratton has been on a hot streak, after cashing in her money in the bank and, being it solo now. I just think that, her getting away from everybody and just being a champion, she's on top. She's hot. She's a force. And I think Charlotte Flair, even though she's back, I just don't see her taking down Tiffany right now. And I don't see what it would do for WWE unless you're just wanting to heel in that position. That's what Charlotte is. And Charlotte does no real bond with the fans anymore. I just think she's been gone away too much. The plastic surgery, it's just too much. So Tiffany Stratton gets the win. It's Tiffy time. After she beat the shit out of her the other night in the parking lot, I don't know how Charlotte comes back from that. The next match is the World Heavyweight Championship. It's Gunther versus Jey Uso. Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. He eliminated John Cena. It was a huge, huge, huge event, and I think Jey Uso, he deserved it. He's main event Jey Uso is what they've been calling him, and I think this is his time to really prove that name. Gunther has been a force. Gunther has been a long reigning champion. Gunther has been dominant of all his opponents. Gunther's been big on the mic. He's a heel. He even was on a WWE show as of late that he ended up just talking shit to these contenders, trying to get their basically just keeping it real. So he's hardcore. So I think that they're going to have a dominant match, but I see Jey Uso winning. I think Jey Uso deserves to be the world heavyweight champion. I think Gunther has had a strong run. I think Gunther needs to get on other storylines. I think he needs to get out of the title picture because even though he's been a dominant force, even though I have a lot of respect for him, he's been a boring champion. He is super fucking boring. And I think Jey Uso would be fun. I think Jey Uso would bring um, some big time matches. He's more high flying. He's more exciting to watch. Will WWE want to go that route? I don't know. Will WWE, you know, I just feel like even if you want to go with Gunther, main event Jey Uso needs to win a main event at WrestleMania. And even though he's not the headline show at WrestleMania, considered, it's going to be the Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, CM Punk match, or Cody Rhodes, John Cena, of course. I think Cody Rhodes, John Cena is the biggest, but those are the two that are really the main eventers. But it's a huge match. This is one of the top four here. So, Jey Uso, I hope he does it, and I think it's time for main event Jey Uso to win a title at WrestleMania in the main event of his match. So let's go with Women's World Champion Io Sky versus Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. And I'm going to say with this match that I like Rhea Ripley winning the title. I think Bianca Belair has been distracted. I talked about the Jade Cargill, Naomi, and they've been dealing with shit. And I think it's a case where they're going to have to figure it out, with their shit. But I think she needs to be focused for this. And I think she's dealing with two very, very talented, women and former champions. And Rhea Ripley, though, she's just dominant. And I think she's mad. And I think she, wants that title and she doesn't want to deal with, any of these girls. And they've been really, really in each other's face. Ripley attacked Sky and Belair and then she signed the contract. And I think, you know, she also is just basically trying to just get two of the biggest heavyweights out of the picture for the women's wrestling. Io Sky, Bianca Belair, those are two women that are dominant forces, and I think can all pull it off. I mean, this is another match where I think they all pulled off. But Rhea Ripley, she is going to be the dominant force in this one. So I see Rhea Ripley with the women's world champion walking away. Um, my next match is Roman Reigns versus CM Punk versus Seth Rollins in a triple threat match. And I think this match is going to be huge. Seth Rollins and CM Punk have had a rivalry that's been going on for years. CM Punk was always a wrestler that the guys looked up to, but Seth Rollins stopped because when CM Punk left, he felt betrayed. And then he hasn't liked how CM Punk's had like a red carpet road out for him since he's been back. So they've really been going at it. Roman Reigns hates CM Punk. They're both loyal to Paul Heyman, but Roman's, not anymore. And CM Punk is, and CM Punk knew uh, that he could get Paul Heyman to do a favor, and Paul Heyman's loyal. And Paul Heyman gets in these situations where he's loyal to Lesnar, he's loyal to Punk, he's loyal to Reigns, and you have to pick who your loyalties to. So, but I think Seth Rollins, he wants to hurt both these guys, and I think he is super focused. And I think with him being in this match and being the triple threat, I think he's really going to bring a force. And I think with this, that CM Punk's going to have Paul Heyman pull something where it's going to affect Roman, but I think Seth Rollins is going to get the win. I think that there's some way that he gets the win. CM Punk's going to pull it and get over on Roman, but I think Seth Rollins is going to capitalize. And I think this is going to continue. I don't think this is just going to be a quick over, especially the storyline. But I see Seth Rollins capitalizing, and I see him taking the victory home here. My next match that I want to talk about is the official main event match. I consider all these events main event. Like when I was talking about that Jey Uso match, that's at the end, I was being silly, but in his main event, I mean, like in his title, I feel like that isn't a main event slash one, but this is the main event. This is the big time event. This is going to be a huge match. This is history. This is the main event of WrestleMania 41. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Championship. And I'm going to say it here now. John Cena wins that 17th title. Yes, he's a heel. Fuck John Cena as a heel, but he broke my heart. But at the end of the day, shout out to Cena. Shout out to history. He's bringing the 17th title home, and he's going to beat Ric Flair. He is bringing that title home. This match, it all goes back to Cena's loyalty to The Rock, Cena mad at the fans, Cena feeling like he's been forced to be this character, this person that he don't even feel himself, even though it's built his whole career and who he's been. And The Rock, Travis Scott, and Cena were forming a pack, and they turned on Cody Rhodes. And they beat the shit out of Cody Rhodes. And Cena and Cody have been going back and forth, back and forth. And they were on a European run. And Cena's still, not changing the music. He's still being the same character. He's still, from the standpoint of his whole gimmick, but he's a heel. He's not a good guy anymore. And he's called out fans, and things have gone viral. And it's been crazy to see, John Cena turning heel. It really was the talk of the world the next day. I mean, because John Cena is one of the biggest wrestlers of all time, and for him to become a bad guy, it was crazy. I was blown away. I remember going to work the next day, and I told everybody about it, and they were laughing. But I was like, "No, guys, this is a big fucking deal." So, but Cena's done great heel work. He's been fantastic. But here's what my prediction is: Cena wins the title. He makes history, but something happens, and Cena and The Rock end up having some kind of conflict, and Cena goes back to being the good guy. I think he rides out as the good guy. I think he's not loyal really to anybody. I don't think he's loyal to Cody, loyal to The Rock, but I think he wants the title. I think he wants to leave with the title and do that, deep down. But something happens, something where he has to be good again, and he redeems himself. And he explains how he had to be who he was during that time. But he also could ride off and be on the title, and maybe that's something he's always wanted to do. I mean, basic thugonomics, John Cena was my favorite. I loved it, but he wasn't really the nicest wrestler at that time. He was more of a kind of a heel. He used brass knucks against Big Show to win the U.S. title at WrestleMania 20, which is crazy to think about. That was at 20, and now we're on 41. But I just see whatever the future holds with Cena. Cena makes history this weekend at WrestleMania 41. He wins that title. I just don't see Cody Rhodes being able to do it, and I think it's Cena's time. So, everyone, I want to thank you for listening. I know my fans that listen that aren't into wrestling. I'm sorry for the random wrestling episode, but I love pro wrestling. I've talked about it before. I've had friends on with it, so I'm always going to talk wrestling. And to do a WrestleMania episode, I thought it would be great to get my predictions and break down the matches. So I hope everybody gets to watch. If you're not into wrestling, give it a shot this weekend. It's going to be exciting. 2 nights, you ain't got shit to do. Turn it on. It's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to watching. I'm looking forward to being glued in. You know, I'm a go, go, go person. I always got stuff to do and I'm doing things. But sometimes when it's WrestleMania or a big pay per view, it's just time to sit down on the couch and turn on some wrestling. So definitely tune in. Peacock, Netflix all around the world for my international listeners. Thank you all for listening. I have a lot of fun doing these solo episodes, breaking down sports. This is what I do. When I'm not having a guest, I like to do sports episodes or recaps or reviews. And so I always love giving predictions, the winners. So this is a lot of fun. And, I'm going to have this come out here on Friday, April 18th. That way, you can listen to this before it's the big wrestling weekend. So, WrestleMania 41, John Cena makes history is my call, 17th title. Seth Rollins brings it home. Jey Uso brings it home. And we're going to see a lot of people beat the shit out of each other, but it's going to be fun. So, Vibing with Sleazy, the podcast, season 6, episode 20. I'm out. Peace.